comment on my last live a bunch of different questions. So I figured, you know what, might as well do another one and address them all, as well as I wanted to get into the topic of how are you financially, mainly financially, but also just general plans, but how are you planning for your 2026? Because let's see. No, it was DB. So DB, or Dirty Broke, he threw out the invitation of doing the 10K challenge, which is basically saving up $10,000 over the course of a year, which it's not that hard to do. You just have to plan for it and you have to set some money aside, and it does take some dedication. So, but which I'm going to do in a different way initially, because I had bought my truck here at the beginning of the year. Initially, I was going to save $10,000 by, well, actually paying off my truck, which the balance is like $24,000. So I have enough time and enough, generally speaking, money to pay that off within a year, based on the income that I have, my overall expenses on a monthly basis. So really, it's just if you put money aside, can I pay the money off, or pay the debt off rather? Yes. So I was going to do that, and then I had a sewage backup because home ownership is just the greatest thing ever. Had a sewage backup into my basement about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and so now I am waiting on if they need to actually replace my sewage line, because there's some roots growing into it. It's a clay line. The house was built in the mid-60s. So we'll see. We'll see. So let's see. Let's address the chat. Are you a teacher? Not really. Not really. I'm in Wyoming. Let's see here. What's going on? Texas Mobile Home. It's going to be coming up on 7 months as a mixer driver, looking into getting into Lind or Loves. Yeah, Lind is also a great company, from what I understand, but it can be based on terminal to terminal. As far as, like, I know some people will complain about the terminal manager for cryogenics, so just reach out to a driver in your area. That's going to be the best way to address that. As far as if you actually want to work there, talk to several people. Don't just talk to one person. You know, you're always going to find a bad apple at every company, or, you know, somebody who's disgruntled. So, but yeah, just reach out to a driver. Let's see. So George said, been really looking hard at Cheyenne, wanted to know if you could answer a few questions. So I'll just go over his questions here, and then we can do a quick live about financially planning for 2026, or just general plans for 2026. So let's see here. How is Cheyenne as a city? Pretty cheap living there. It is. It depends on what you need as far as renting or buying, but home average price here is about $350,000 last time I checked. I bought my house for $350,000. Let's see, about 9 months ago now. So, and then rent, you can still get a 1-bedroom place for, I think, $800 to $1,000 if you're just renting per month. So really not that bad. There's not a lot of jobs here. It's a town of like 70,000 tops. So there's not a lot of people here. And so there's not a lot of jobs here, but generally speaking, for what you're paid on average, depending upon your industry, because he didn't specify here, you can get by. You can get by based on how much you're paid versus how much renting or buying is. Let's see. And then second question, how heavy is the mountain driving in the area on a scale of 1 to 10? Mountain driving. We have two passes. Well, we really only have one pass we go over on a regular basis, which is between Cheyenne and Laramie. That's Sherman Pass. It's not even that high. It's like 8,500 feet. The elevation gain from Cheyenne to Laramie is gradual. And then once you go over the summit down towards Laramie, it's about a 5% grade for about 2 to 3 miles. So it's not terrible, but you throw some ice on that, you can have some troubles if you're not paying attention. So, and then it's not really a mountain pass, but we do have several steep, they're not, I don't even think they're 5% grades, but they are, we do have, so if you go west of Laramie and you start to get into the north edge of the Snowy Mountain Range, which butts up against I-80, you'll hit the Elk Mountain area, and basically between Arlington and Elk Mountain, you have some fairly steep grades, and then also there's one more steep hill that you'll have to go down towards Sinclair. That can be problems if you have some ice, but ultimately it's not too bad. It's again, I've never had to throw chains. Doesn't mean that's always going to be the case. I've only spent 3 winters here, so could be the case at some point that I throw some chains, but I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, it's probably a 5, because it's not flat. It's not, Kansas, but it's also not Wolf Creek Pass down in Colorado. It's not that significant to where, even a veteran trucker is going to have significant problems. So it's probably a 5, maybe a 6, depending upon your experience level. So let's see here. How bad is the wind driving tank out there? It's not bad. Again, that's because it's a cylindrical shape, and so the wind is basically going to pass over it versus pushing on it because it's not a flat surface. So even on the highest of gusts, yeah, when I'm empty, especially, my trailer can get rattled. But why do you have the kid thing? My wife teaches my kids school at home, so yeah, I'm basically in school right now. So anyways, so yeah, even on the worst gusts, 70 to 80 mile per hour wind gusts, you'll get shaken a little bit, but you're still not going to get blown over. I have yet to hear of a tanker that's actually blown over in the wind, unless we're talking like hurricane, 150 plus mile an hour winds. Not much is actually going to stand up to that, or like a tornado. But we'll get 100 mile per hour wind gusts like occasionally in certain spots, but that's not sustained wind speeds. That's just a gust and then it'll be over. So out here, I have yet to hear of a tanker that's been pushed over in the wind. So it's not really a concern. The only concern from it is, are you going to get pushed when you're on ice? That's really the biggest thing. So you have to pay attention. So if you're on the ice and you get pushed a little bit, especially when you're driving, and I'd recommend, driving a little bit slower in the wind. People think you need to drive fast to the wind. No, you don't. You need to slow down, and you need to, because it's going to be easier to push over an object that's going faster. The faster you go, especially in a truck, something that has a higher center of gravity than a car, the easier it's going to be to push over, because the less stable it is, the higher speed you go. So if you slow down a little bit, regardless of what kind of trailer you have, it's going to be easier to not get pushed over. So you just have to keep that in mind. And then if you're getting pushed and you're on ice, just make gradual adjustments. Don't make a lot of adjustments. Don't, try and jerk the steering wheel, because that's when you'll break traction, and that's when you'll start to lose control. So just make gradual adjustments to the steering wheel and just kind of slowly get yourself back into the lane if you actually get pushed out of the lane because of the wind on the ice. Otherwise, you're not going to get pushed around if there's not ice. So let's see. Would you recommend Cheyenne for hauling fuel over any other areas in the country? If not, where would you rather be and why? I personally like it here. Again, because there's not a lot of traffic. Cost of living's very reasonable, especially for what I'm paid. Again, made $130,000 last year. So it's very, very reasonable. Let's see. If not where there's, although I was seeing, so I thought Cheyenne, as far as the cost of living versus what we're paid for here at Gemini Motor Transport hauling fuel, I thought we would have like the best cost of living versus pay ratio. I think Iowa's got it, honestly, because I saw a posting, and if you want to look at the postings, look at jobs.loves.com. They had a posting in two places, actually, in Iowa, in Davenport and in Waterloo, Iowa. And I actually drove out to Iowa, Waterloo, or right next to Waterloo, to get my truck about a month ago. So I'm kind of familiar with the area now. The average home price, or the median home price in Waterloo, is like 160 grand. And yet they're still paid 30 to 32 an hour starting out there for Loves. So versus, I started at $36 an hour, and the median home price here is $350,000. So $350,000. So obviously housing isn't the entire picture, but housing for pretty much everybody is going to be your biggest expense throughout the course of your life. So as far as like a purely pay to cost of living ratio, that I would say Iowa may have us beat, honestly. So if you're looking for a cheap place to haul fuel to just live at, but you're still paid decently, I would look at Iowa, quite honestly. I wouldn't do it because I need mountains. I can't just be surrounded by cornfields. I love to go hiking, exploring up in the mountains, certainly during the summer and when it's nice. So for me, wouldn't work. But otherwise, if I didn't care about mountains, I'd be looking at Iowa. So take a look at that. Let's see. What would be one thing you would change about Cheyenne fuel driving? The wind. But that'd pretty much be it. Just the wind, and that's probably the worst part, honestly. And again, if the wind is the worst part, not traffic, not crime, not cost of living, not any of those things, I have it pretty good. So yeah, I would change the wind to zero, obviously, but it is what it is. That's just part of living out here. So there's no perfect place. At a certain point, you'll realize every place is going to have its downsides. There's always going to be trade-offs. And that's just the trade-off of living here. And that's why most people don't want to live here, because they don't want to live in a windy state, and that's fine. So, all right, let's address the chat here. Let's see here. See if I can actually do this without screwing up the phone. Trying to get into fuel hiring here in Las Vegas. Yep. How's it going, Highway Kurt? Is that Kurt? Yep, Highway Kurt. Yep. Again, just reach out to drivers in your area. Keep an eye out for postings. If you're just trying to get into fuel hauling, look for pilot openings, Loves openings, or just any smaller based company in your area that's actually going to try and hire newer drivers that are looking to get into fuel hauling. So I don't know what those companies would be out there, but just do your research. Even if you have to spend a year at a smaller company just to get your experience and then come to Loves or Pilot, that's because that's what I had to do. It's not the end of the world. So let's see here. Are there still 3 recruiters? I have no idea. I haven't talked to recruiters since I was hired, or before I was hired, obviously. So it's been almost a year and a half. So I have no idea. I have not looked up to see who's working here or not. So good question, though. Let's see here. 4-wheelers driving too fast also. Yep. Let's see here. You ever sample the product and take swig? I got pretty close. I got pretty close my very first day of fuel hauling because for whatever reason, I thought it was a great idea to just squat down right in front of the load head. And yeah, this is almost 3 years ago now. Squat down right in front of the load head and just pull the lever for whatever reason. And I just had a diesel bath just straight on me. Never again. One thing that I'll never do again. So yeah, I almost tasted it. And there's been a couple times where the wind has pushed like a drip of product like really close to my face, whether that was gas or diesel or even additive in the winter, especially. So I've gotten pretty close. Obviously, I smelled it. That's good enough. That's good enough. Let's see. Just got my CDL 7 months ago. Got into a small company fuel hauling. Luckily, they pay me about $27 an hour. You think that's good? Hey, if you got it, look, here's somebody else that got into fuel hauling right off the bat. Right off the bat. So I don't want to hear, oh, you can't get into fuel hauling right off the bat, right into school. Yes, you can. Not going to say it's likely, but Chris is a great example of that. Let's see, they pay me $27 an hour. You think that's good? Yeah, I mean, depends obviously on where if that's New York City, that might be obviously a little bit low. But for $27 an hour, I'm assuming they're paying you overtime after that too, or after 40 hours. Yeah, that's great. That is my first job. Yeah, the flatbedding job that I first got into when I first got my CDL, that was $20 an hour. And that was because I had my permit. And then I got bumped up to like 22 or 23 once I got my license. But yeah, you're doing great, man. Especially if this is what you want to do as far as fuel hauling for the rest of your career, or at least trying it out. Absolutely. That's a great start. Ooh, I need some coffee. Okay. We do gravity and pump off, but low key, I hate doing pump. Yeah, pump outs or pump. You said pump outs. Yeah, I'm assuming you meant pump offs. Yeah, I mean it is what it is. And we'll do them some places around here with Gemini and Pilot too, but they're kind of a pain. But at the end of the day, you're still paid, right? So I would just say, it's part of the job. It's part of building experience. And at least you know how to do it so that if you go to an area in Loves or Pilot that does it, then you can at least understand how to do it. And then you know how to do it. So let's see. What is your usual radius as far as delivery goes? Again, this is going to depend on your area that you get hired in. Like Dirty Broke out in Pennsylvania, I think he only goes like 200 miles. That's usually his farthest radius is like 200 miles, where he'll do 200 miles the entire night. I do, like last night, I averaged over 500. So I'd say on average, I probably farthest, I'll just give you the general areas that we go. So the other night I went out to North Platte to load. That's about the farthest east we'll go, and that's about 240 miles. Wamsutter is about the farthest west we'll go, unless I get the rare chance to go out to Green River to deliver to the store there, which that's about 250 miles west. They are building a store in Casper, so that's going to be built sometime this year. So we're hoping that we get get that store, and it's another place we can deliver to. That's 180 miles north of here or thereabouts. And then farthest south, Denver, so it's about an hour and a half. Sometimes the guys have gone all the way down to Walsenburg, Colorado, which is, I want to say that's like a 5-hour drive, something like that, 4.5, 5-hour drive. I have not done that yet, and that's pretty rare for us to get it in Cheyenne because it is a one and done route. So I haven't done that. But generally, Denver, North Platte, here in Cheyenne for now, and then Sinclair, Wamsutter. So that's about it. So let's see here. How's it going? It's going, Barbie. How's it going? Are you a Broncos fan? No, I used to be a Steelers fan when I was into football a couple of years ago, much to the chagrin of Dirty Broke. But I have not been paying attention to football just because I've been so busy working and then just doing obviously this YouTube stuff recently. But even before that, it's just been kind of doing the outdoor stuff. And I don't really have time for sports, quite honestly. So let's see here. Yeah. Hey, how's it going, Harpo? You're welcome. Highway. Let's see. Sucks in South Florida. Can't wait to get this year over with. Well, I mean, Florida's great to visit. I would probably never live there, but that's just me. Too many people, too much traffic. I wouldn't live a lot of places just because they have way too many people, way too much traffic, takes up way too much of my free time. But that's just me. Let's see here. 2026 plan to pay off my HELOC at my current job so I can just go drive trucks here in Indiana, but I think the average pay is around $90K a year. So per year, I don't know if that is based on a 4 or 5 12-hour shifts. I don't know what the base pay rate is in Indiana. I would imagine it's either 27 to 29 or 30 to 32, at least at this company. Yeah, I would, because if I was at 30 an hour at Pilot, and when I was averaging my first year at Pilot, averaging like 30, no, I was at 31. Yeah, I was at 31 an hour. I had 121,000 my first year at Pilot at $31 an hour. I was working 63 or 64 hours on average, plus like 7 6-day weeks where I was pushing my 70-hour clock. So if you hustle, you can definitely get over and well into 100,000. It just depends on how much work they have. But yeah, I would imagine even on a 4-day week, that sounds about right. 90,000 sounds about right, even on a 4-day week, because we are paid overtime, plus the bonuses, plus the ancillary pay. So that sounds about right. But yeah, pay off that HELOC. That's a great idea. Yeah, I still have my truck to pay off, and then that's about it. But we'll see with the sewer line. Got a quote for $18,000, which there goes my emergency fund. But hey, that's what it's for, and I wasn't stressed about it. But waiting on another quote to see if they can just patch it or whatever, so I don't have to spend 18 grand. That would be great if I didn't. Otherwise, I will be partaking in the $10,000 challenge to build my emergency fund again. So otherwise, let's see here. Damn, that guy's lucky as hell. Yeah, I don't know who. Let's see. Hey man, thanks for answering my questions. I actually saw those love listings in Davenport and Waterloo. I live about 30 minutes from Davenport. Yeah, okay, so if you're already in Iowa, I would seriously apply, because that's, yeah, for what they get paid for the cost of living there, absolutely. I would at least reach out to a driver, try and connect with them. And then from there, assuming you already have your license, you didn't say, or anything like that, then it's going to be a lot easier to try and get hired there if you build that rapport with the driver, and then they're able to give you a reference, and then you go at the top of the list of who they're trying to hire versus, or at least who they're going to look at when they are hiring, versus people who just apply without any reference, even if they have fuel hauling experience, even if I think the only person that you would be beaten by is like an internal transfer, but I don't think there's a lot of people who want to move to Iowa. A lot of people want to move to Florida, and that's why those job listings, those job postings down in Florida, they go immediately, because everybody wants to live down there. But I don't think, and the other good news is, I don't think you're going to have a lot of competition down in Iowa, or in Iowa. So I would give it a shot. Let's see. At Gemini, how long should you expect to get on day shift, and what would those hours be? Thank you for doing the live streams. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Yeah, because that's hard. It depends on the area. I want to say on average, you're going to spend about 2 to 3 years on night shift. And depending upon the night shift, that could be really reasonable, like a 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. or a 3 p.m. to 3 a.m., which I would love that schedule. I'm 5:30 to 5:30 technically, so it's a little bit later, but it completely depends on the area. I know for my area, my coworkers didn't get offered a day shift for like 6 years. So I'm just kind of prepared for that mentally. I'm hoping with the Casper store that opens up here later this year, they add a truck and then I get a day shift. Who knows? Who knows when that happens? So I'm just going to try and keep my hours at a reasonable level so I don't burn myself out like I did at Pilot, working that many hours. So that if it is like 5-6 years before I get a day shift, it's not a big deal. But it completely depends on the area. And what was this? How long would you expect to work day shift? And it depends on the position too, because I've seen technical night shifts start anywhere from noon. So you're noon to midnight to, I think the latest I've seen is 6 p.m. 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So that could be your night shift, anywhere from noon to midnight to 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I don't think I've seen any 7 p.m.s or anything like that. So 5 to 6 p.m. is going to be your latest start time from what I know. I could be wrong there, could be later than that, but from all the job postings that I've looked at, I have not seen anything later than 6 p.m. So let's see. Do you primarily deliver to only a couple stores? I've seen one guy online, he only delivered to 2 stores. Most of the time with a third rarely. Yeah, it's pretty much, especially because they hired a second guy. We have a sleeper truck that's out in Wamsutter, and for a long time when I started, it was just one guy out there. They hired a second guy out there, and so for a while there, we were only going out to Wamsutter every other week, versus when I first started, I was going out there at least 3 times a week. I would do 2 loads out there Friday, 2 loads out there Saturday, and then I would do another load at least one other day of the week. But it's kind of slowed down since they hired a guy out there, but it is what it is. So now primarily I'm just doing Laramie and Cheyenne, so 2 stores. Occasionally I'll go down to Colorado to help out with the store, but yeah, it's primarily 2 stores. May or may not be the case in your area. You'll have to find out and ask in the interview, but could be that. So let's see here. Just had an interview with the drug test with McLean, just waiting for the background check to clear. Awesome. Nice. Let's see, this will be my first job in trucking. Is this a good start and eventually get into fuel? Yeah, food delivery, as far as like, I did food delivery with Sysco. That is some of the hardest work I ever did, bar none. So hopefully you're in decent shape. That'll help. Otherwise you're going to get in decent shape, and hopefully you keep your diet in check too, because it'll help. Get your sleep, focus on your diet, and you should be in a decent place to tackle it. Obviously, you're going to work your butt off. Don't hurt yourself. Don't overextend yourself, especially when we're in winter. And if you're in an area that has ice, don't overextend yourself to where you're slipping and falling and then you're out of a job for a while. Don't do that. But yeah, it's a great start. Food delivery is a great start. Anything is a great start in trucking, at least compared to other industries that I've been in, but that's a different discussion. So yeah, McLean's a great start. I think they're on accessory or like item pay. I'm not sure. Sysco was hourly with overtime after 40. So I don't know how that like accessory or the per item pay works, whatever they call it. I forget. But I hear McLean drivers, if they hustle, they can still make well over $100,000. So Could be worse. Could be worse. So you're going to put in some work. You're going to put in some long hours, but you're going to make some decent money from what I understand. So, yeah, if you want to get into fuel hauling, obviously get your experience there. Try and stay there at least a year. But if you're there for 3-6 months, and then you see an opening at Love's or Pilot or anywhere that might hire you without fuel experience in your area, shoot your shot, man. It doesn't hurt to apply. The worst thing they can say is no. So, yeah, if you want to get into fuel hauling long term, and yeah, you're starting out in food delivery, that's perfectly fine. Obviously, make sure you have your endorsements. Get those at some point if you haven't already. Doubles and triples, hazmat with the tanker combination. Get your fingerprinting done, your TSA background check, and your TWIC card if it requires it in your area. Or a lot of the times, no, that's just my area. They don't require a TWIC card in my area for fuel hauling, but that's just my area. So never mind. Let's see. How does lunch work? Time, place, meals. It's basically, they just don't want you to take, my understanding is that you are entitled to a 30-minute break, regardless of how short or long your shift is. Obviously if it's pretty short, you might as well just go home. But, my understanding is they just don't want you to take a 30-minute break within the first, 2-3 hours of your shift, unless something comes up, or they don't want you to, they don't want you to do that on a regular basis anyways. But yeah, you can park it at a Love's truck stop, or just anywhere. Ideally not a competitor, right? You don't want to park the Love's truck at a Pilot. That looks bad, for obvious reasons. But if it's like a third-party place and you're just stopping out there for lunch for 30 minutes, I don't think they really care. So at least that's the way that my RM said. So let's see here. This will be my first job in trucking. Is there a good start? Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, never mind. Time, place, meals. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I usually bring my lunch personally. And I just bring up my own lunch and then go from there. Because it's cheaper. I don't want to pay for food. I'd rather pay off debt and put that money towards investments personally, but because it adds up, $10 here, $10 there, that adds up certainly over the course of a year. So let's see here. I hear you about the sewer line. I was dumb and I took out a HELOC for a pole barn, but then the septic went out there, so $25K more. Oh yeah, it's never a small thing. It's like, it's a small thing here or there, and then it's a giant thing on top of a giant thing. When it rains, it pours. That's just the way it is. When it rains, it pours. It doesn't matter what it is. Could be trucking, could be owning a home, could be anything. It's just when it rains, it pours, just to figure out how, mentally tough you are, and you're not just going to go punch a wall. Because, man, the last few weeks, it's been tempting to do that. But that's life. That's life. You got to roll with the punches. So let's see. One thing about Iowa, it's nice and quiet, no drama. True. That's another thing. If only they had mountains, and that I'd move out there in a heartbeat. Although they salt the roads out there. The truck that I bought, the frame was not in bad shape. It's a 2018, so it wasn't terrible. But the bumper, I'm probably going to end up, I can, do the rust care on it, but I think I'm just going to end up replacing it, because the bumper is like $300, at least for the metal part of it. I'd rather just do that. So I'll just replace the bumper and then call it a day. Everything else I can just, treat the rust, coat it again, call it a day. But anyways, let's see. I hate Florida. I definitely relocate if fuel company was to give me a chance. With the amount of experience that I had, I would leave in a heartbeat. Yeah, that helps. that's not always going to be the case because ideally fuel hauling companies want you to be in the area that you are in because things happen with moving. But especially if, why am I forgetting his name? Ryan? The guy out in California, Flyrise, his handle on YouTube. Dirty Broke did an interview with him. He's just recently for his 1 year. I forget his name, Ryan or Matt. I don't know. I'm terrible with names, but he moved like 5 hours away. I mean, granted, it was still within California, but they gave him a shot here at Love's to move because he had to move like from LA to not Bakersfield. What is the other? Central Valley, 5 hours to the north. I forget where he's at. But he had to move, so it's not likely, but hey, you know, it doesn't hurt to throw that out there. Let's see here. And you are going to be more willing to, or if you are more willing to move, you are more likely to be hired. How likely depends on the company, how desperate they are for drivers, but it is what it is. Let's see. Do you only pull 1993? No, we pull gas. I would say 70 to 80% of my loads are diesel, but maybe once a week or every other week, I'll pull a gas load or a split premium and regular, or a premium with diesel, or a regular with diesel. So it just depends. Let's see here. Just popped into your channel. Who are you, brother? In 3 words. That's a great question. I don't know. Follower of Christ, father, husband, or husband, father. I don't know. Well, it's not 3 words, but yeah. Let's see here. UPS is cutting 30,000 jobs. How many drivers do you think? Not worth the drama. Yeah, that's the problem. When you're paid so much for a giant corporation like that, it seems to be they get cut a lot, and because that's, you know, their union is very aggressive on getting them the absolute best pay, which is cool for the drivers that don't get cut, but when you get cut, then it doesn't really matter if you're the best paid in the industry. You don't have a job anymore. So that's all I'll say about that. Yes, I'm in Ohio. I had a recruiter call me back for Love's, but it was an OTR regional super position. I don't think I want to be OTR. You think I should have took it? If you wanted to get your start in fuel hauling, maybe. But again, yeah, by OTR, they mean up to 3 weeks on the road. I have not seen anybody go beyond that, but you know, it is what it is. You might regret it in the future, but at the end of the day, if you didn't want to be on the road for 3 weeks at a time, you probably made the right call. So let's see. UPS subcontracted some rural deliveries to UPS. Yeah, they're cutting marginal routes. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. How many hours do you average per week? I average about 55 to 60, generally closer to 60. So last year for the entire average year, I averaged about 58 hours a week. So, yeah, so it was right under 58 hours a week for the entire year of the weeks that I actually did work. Because I took off like 4 weeks last year where I wasn't working. Yeah. So I averaged 58 hours a week. That's going to depend on your area, but generally pretty much company-wide expect to be somewhere between 50 to 60 hours a week. So it is what it is. USPS hired some package delivery subcontractors. Okay, good to know. All right, so with all the questions out of the way, I wanted to talk about very briefly, because I'm running out of time here, because I got to do some stuff on my weekend, because that's adulthood, you know, doing stuff you don't want to do on your weekend. I just wanted to talk about, so what are your financial plans for 2026? How are you, I know Blue Mutter, whoever took out the HELOC, I'm forgetting his YouTube tagline or handle. But what are your financial plans for 2026, and how are you going to allocate the money that you earned this year? So for me, again, like I mentioned briefly before, depending upon the sewer line thing, if I don't have to spend $18,000 replacing a sewer line, that'd be great. And if that is the case and I don't have to replace the whole thing, then I'll just be paying off my truck. I'll be pausing, still going to be putting the 5% match towards my 401k, because that's free money. Always take the free money with a 401k match, so I'll do that. I'll continue to do that. And that needs time to compound as it sits there in the retirement account anyways. But aside from that, I am going to be pausing the $600 that I was normally putting towards my brokerage. And I'm going to be putting that towards my truck, paying that off as quickly as I can. And then the difference that I would have paid towards my truck every month will be going back towards my brokerage and then towards my house. So I'll pay probably an extra $800 to $1,000 towards my brokerage, pay that off in about 12 to 15 years, depending upon the amount I can do every month. And then on my brokerage, I'll be putting at least $1,000, maybe like $1,400 a month into my brokerage, build that up for the next 18 years. Yeah, 18 years. And then hopefully by the time I am 30, it should be at like $500,000, something like that, so that I can just coast. I can technically retire at age 50. And then, oh yeah, how's it going, Jackson? I'm going to butcher your name, so I'll just say Jackson. How's it going? So yeah, at age 50, I should have about $500,000 in that brokerage account. And then that'll float me until I can pull out my Roth 401k at 59.5. So that's the general plan, not for just this year, obviously, but that is the general plan of how I'm going to be able to retire at 50. Also with a paid off house here in about 15 or so years, just depending. Obviously, there's going to be bumps in the road where I'm going to have to stop, build my emergency fund back up, like I'm going to have to do now if I have to replace the stupid sewer line. So, but it's delays. There's always going to be delays in whatever your financial goals are, because life isn't that simple. There's always going to be problems that come up along the way, but can you still manage to be dedicated to whatever plan that you have? So, let's see here. Oh, we got a Slack notification. There we go. Okay. All right. So, yeah, so I just was curious what your guys' financial plans were as far as how you're going to allocate the money, but that's all right. Nobody wants to talk about finances. It's boring. Snooze fest. I know. Let's see. No. So, all right. So if you guys have any other questions, as far as financial planning goes or anything like that, or if you want me to do a video specifically about that or a live stream, we can do that. And that's what it was supposed to be about as far as this live stream goes. But again, it is what it is. Most people don't want to talk about it. So, but hey, thought I'd throw that out there. So let's see. Do I do stocks? I do personally. I do for all of my brokerage accounts, or my brokerage account, and then my 401k, I just do low cost index fund. That's does not financial advice. Do your own research. But I personally just do low cost index funds such as VOO. My 401k is 100% into VINIX, which is basically just an older version of VOO. It's low cost index fund of the S&P 500. So that's done very well for me. So let's see. Okay, talk investing next time. Okay, yeah, we can do a live stream investing or video investing about investing next time. So Let's see here. Make sure I got everybody's questions. Okay, so Tour Jackson said, can you get into hazmat if you have speed/warning tickets? You can. You can. It doesn't. I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to help you because obviously, especially on the insurance side, if they see on your driving record that you have speeding tickets, it's not going to help, but doesn't mean it's not possible. I know, like my coworker down in Georgia, he also has a YouTube channel. Triple R Truck Talks is his channel, so go ahead and check him out. He has a lot of good content. He was talking about how he had a horrible driving record. He still ended up getting into trucking. Let some things over time fall off his driving record, because I think it stays on your driving record depending upon what it is for like 7 years or maybe 3 years. Just depends on what it is. But he had a ton of I think he had two crashes, some speeding tickets, and he still got a job in trucking, and now he's here at Gemini Motor Transport. So it's certainly not impossible to get here and to get into hazmat with a bad driving record. Obviously, the more time goes on after you have those speeding tickets and you don't get any more, the better, and the better your chances are to get hired somewhere and just get your experience. So honestly, again, wherever you could get your foot in the door with hazmat, anyone who's willing to hire you for a hazmat role, take it, get your experience, get a year or two of experience, and then you can go anywhere within hazmat. So certainly depending upon fuel hauling or whatever it is you're doing, so let's see here. Okay, I think that is it. And wow, we've been at this for like 47 minutes. That is crazy. So I'm going to just make sure we have gotten everybody's questions. Blue Mutter, that's who I was thinking of, who took out the HELOC. Yep. So I've been there. Been a lot of stupid, done a lot of stupid financial stuff. So, yep, no problem, Jackson. So yeah, just keep your driving record clean, apply, go from there, and just keep on getting your experience as much as you can. So, all right, I think that is about it for today. I have some stuff to get to and to do, so I got to go to the dump. I got to do my taxes, so that's really fun. Got to do my taxes just to get out of the way and see how much I owe good old Uncle Sam. If I owe him anything, I might get a slight refund. Who knows? So taxes, got to look at my phone plan and this whole sewer line situation. So, but hey, yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, 357 Squared. I certainly will. Next time at Pony Up's request, we will do a investing or personal finance live stream. That's what it'll be centered around. But otherwise, if you guys have any other questions, put in the comments section. If you want me to do any other specific videos, put in there as well, and I will get to them at a certain point. Otherwise, take care. God bless. Have a good one, guys. Keep it moving. Let's see here.